The European Union delivered its strongest message yet to Moscow and to the rest of the world, with a sweeping new package of sanctions aimed directly at the heart of Russia's wartime economy. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas called it, and I quote, one of the strongest sanction packages ever. As the war in Ukraine drags into a fourth year, this move not only tightens the screws on Russia, but has ripple effects that reach far beyond Eastern Europe, to world energy markets, to China, and even to India. This is another unilateral attack on Russia from the EU members. Today, I will break down what these new sanctions mean, why the EU chose this moment to act, and how the fallout could touch global economies. I am Gunjan Anna, and let's start with the basics. This is the EU's 18th sanction package leveled against Russia since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. But officials say this one is different, not just in its scale, but in its design as well. The measures focus on 5 big areas: Russia's energy exports, especially oil, the Russian banking system, its military industry including tech imports, sanctions circumvention including through third countries like China, and for the first time singling out entities in India. Kallas said bluntly, and I quote, "We're cutting the Kremlin's war budget further, going after 105 more shadow fleet ships, their enablers, and limiting Russia's bank access to funding. We are putting more pressure on Russia's military industry, Chinese banks that enable sanctions evasion, and blocking tech exports used in drones." So what makes this particular package unprecedented? Here are the key measures. Number 1, lower oil price cap. The EU has slashed the cap on Russian oil shipments to $47.60 US per barrel, down from the previous $60. That's about 15% below current market prices, an attempt to squeeze Russia's vital oil income without causing a sudden global shock. Number 2, shadow fleet crackdown. 105 more vessels, these are so-called shadow fleet ships used to secretly transport Russian oil, they have been blacklisted. This means they can no longer access EU ports or services, and insurers and shippers face heavy penalties if they cooperate. Number 3, Nord Stream ban. All transactions related to the Nord Stream pipelines, which once delivered Russian gas directly to Germany, are now outright forbidden. Number 4, banking restrictions. Nearly 20 more Russian banks are being cut out from the SWIFT financial messaging system, making it even harder for Russia to move money internationally. The Russian Direct Investment Fund, a key vehicle for drawing in foreign capital, is also targeted. Number 5, military industrial pressure. New export bans target chemicals, plastics, and machinery, or any material that could feed Russia's armament sector. European companies are now explicitly barred from sending drone parts and sensitive technology to Russia. Number 6, crackdown on evasion. For the first time, entities in China, Hong Kong, Turkey, and significantly India are being sanctioned for allegedly helping Russia skirt the rules. This includes a major Rosenfeld refinery in India hit for processing and exporting Russian crude oil. So why clamp down now? And why these particular measures? Russia's war on Ukraine has entered a phase of grinding, costly attrition. With Ukraine's Western allies determined to keep up military and economic support, the EU is searching for new levers to reduce Russia's capacity to wage war. Russian oil and gas exports remain the central funding source for President Vladimir Putin's government. Despite more than 2 years of sanctions and restrictions, billions are still flowing to Moscow, money that directly finances tanks, drones, and missiles for its war with Ukraine. The lower price cap is meant to slash those profits. The EU and G7 countries have tried for months to strike a balance, hurt Russia's budget, but don't spark a global oil shock that could backfire on European economies and send petrol prices skyrocketing. On enforcement, the EU's big headache has been evasion. Russia's shadow fleet moves oil through a complex network of intermediaries, insurers, and foreign refineries, particularly in Asia. Now, instead of chasing every new trick, the EU is banning entire categories of ships and businesses and targeting partners in third countries who help cover Russia's tracks. Now let's talk fallout. these moves make headlines in Europe, but their impact is global. First, there is the energy market. When the West limits Russian oil exports, global supply shrinks. Energy prices could jump if Russia retaliates or manages to circumvent the cap altogether. Previous efforts to lower the oil cap had only limited effect since much of Russia's oil was already being sold beneath the threshold. But by pulling in shadow fleets and third country refineries, the EU hopes to close the loopholes. Second, there's the banking freeze. By cutting more Russian banks out of international systems, the EU is making it tougher and costlier for Russian companies to do business abroad. This could trickle down to Russian consumers, though in past rounds in Kremlin has shown resilience. One major new dimension is the targeting of third countries like China, Turkey, and especially India. This reflects how Russia has recognized its export strategy, selling crude oil at discounts to buyers outside the West, then importing Western goods through parallel markets. What does this mean for India though? India finds itself squarely in the EU's sight for the first time ever. Here's the context. Since the Ukraine invasion, India has ramped up imports of Russian oil, often refining it and then selling it to the global buyers, including at times those in Europe itself. This has drawn criticism in Western capitals even as Indian officials defend the policy as pragmatic energy security amid global uncertainty. The new EU package designates a major Rosneft-linked refinery in India for sanctions. That's a significant step. Until now, Western sanctions largely avoided directly hitting Indian interests so as not to strain strategic ties with New Delhi. The calculus has clearly changed. As EU officials see it, enforcing sanctions mean closing every back door, including Indian facilities, processing Russian crude. How might this play out though? Indian officials so far have downplayed the impact, arguing that their purchases follow international law and global energy needs. Some analysts think the move could raise tensions but are skeptical it will trigger a full-blown crisis between the EU and India. Nonetheless, it does set up a new source of friction in India's trade and diplomatic relations, especially given New Delhi's neutral stance on the war and push for multi-alignment. Industry experts worry Indian refinery, banks, or shipping firms could face penalties if they perceived as helping Russia dodge restrictions. That could complicate Indian oil imports, insurance, and global sales and may force bigger policy decisions on New Delhi in the months ahead. Now let's step back and analyze the bigger picture. On one hand, this package sends a clear unified signal. Europe is not backing down on Ukraine and is prepared to escalate economic costs for Russia and anyone facilitating its war machine, wherever they might be. In the short term, Russia will find its financial and logistical options narrowing. But as the critiques point out, the effectiveness of sanctions depends on strict enforcement and international coordination. Loopholes remain, especially if large economies like China, India, and Turkey remain on the fence or actively pursue alternative workarounds. For the world, there's a risk and opportunity. Consistent and broad sanctions could, over time, force Moscow to the negotiating table or at least limit its ability to escalate further. But these measures also test the resilience of global energy markets and the willingness of major non-Western economies to stay friendly with both blocs. For India, the question is how long it can maintain its delicate balancing act of reaping the economic benefits of discounted Russian oil while avoiding isolation or penalties from the West. Ultimately, the EU's latest move is as much about symbolism and pressure as about immediate economic pain. It ties the fate of Ukraine's war to robustness of Western allies and the willingness of the world's swing states to pick a side. So, as the EU escalates its campaign to drain the Kremlin's war chest and strangles Russia's global funding ties, the world watches closely. For India and others, the pressure to pick a side is only mounting. We will continue to track the fallout from these sanctions as it ripples through oil markets, global diplomacy, and the ongoing war in Ukraine. Stay with us for more updates. I'm Gunjan Handa for The Asian Chronicle.